Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you all had a great time resting and recharging, hopefully with some family and friends. And what a big surprise as we come into the new year with some major news again from Charlie Munger. And this time, Munger's at it again. He's the most active as an investor that he's been since, I don't know, probably since he ran his own partnership. But he has doubled down on Alibaba once again, adding about 99% to his overall portfolio position. Now, again, this is the portfolio that he runs for the Daily Journal Corporation. This is not his personal portfolio. He does own a fairly small stake in Daily Journal. It's about 3 or 4% ownership in that company. So basically, this is a small portion of Charlie Munger's overall net worth, just to make that clear. He's worth about $2 billion, but it is an important move because Munger is the financial steward for all the shareholders of Daily Journal and for the company. So just keep that in mind when thinking about this investment. It doesn't mean a lot personally to Munger from a financial perspective, but from a responsibility perspective, it definitely does. Okay, let's talk about the specifics of the portfolio changes, and I'll talk a little bit more about my general thoughts about the situation. But before we do, please let me know in the comments below what you think of this move. Is Charlie crazy? Is he losing his touch? Or is he seeing something in Alibaba that may become a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Okay, hopping on over to Dataroma here, we can see a few of the numbers. It was just one change this quarter. He has added significantly to Alibaba. So this, according to Dataroma, makes up about almost 28% of the total portfolio after adding 99%. However, this is a little inaccurate because this is only the portfolio value that is reported to the SEC. Daily Journal actually holds another stock on the Hong Kong exchange, which is BYD. And I think over the past few quarters, they have been selling shares in BYD. So if we go over to let's go over to the 10K, the most recent 10K that was filed just a week or so ago, we can see that their approximate marketable securities value is $350 million compared to, again, that $260 million. So there's a fair discrepancy there between what Dataroma is reporting and what the 10K says that their portfolio is actually contains. So the SEC filing captures about 75% of the overall portfolio. So to get a more accurate picture of what the percentage of this is, we just multiply this by 75%, and we get about a 20% position for Daily Journal overall. We can hop over to Ticker as well and see that, wow, Daily Journal's making moves. Now they own 0.02% of all the shares outstanding. Again, another thing I like to look at is just the general price range at which Charlie might have purchased these shares. So in this most recent quarter, which ended September, we've seen Alibaba basically have a manic movement, although anywhere from 148 per share, it even went up to about 177, and then all the way going down to the end of the year, the low looks to be about 111. So we don't know exactly what price Charlie paid for this new bulk of shares that he purchased. All we know is that the entry point is significantly lower than his initial purchase back in the first quarter of 2021. So you can see this captures most of the quarter here. The lowest price he could have purchased was about 225, I think. Yeah. Last quarter, he added 83% to his position after the price had gone down significantly. And again, this quarter added significantly. It's possible he purchased shares at the end of the previous quarter in Q3 at around the same price that he paid in Q4, which is perfectly possible. But Munger also might have gotten a lot better price in Q4 as well. It's important to realize that just because Munger's 98 doesn't mean he isn't one of the most rational beings on the planet. Now, he is clearly putting his money where his mouth is as far as the Daily Journal portfolio's concerned. So what we can't learn from this is whether or not Munger is worried at all about any structural risks concerning the VIEs, delisting, or anything like that. And we also can't tell if Munger thinks that the government is a big risk to the future of Alibaba. But what we can glean is, as Monish Pabrai recently said in an Everything Money interview, he is buying this company in all likelihood because he thinks he can make money on it. And whether that be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years, I would expect to see this company sticking around in the Daily Journal portfolio for the rest of his life, certainly. Another thing with Alibaba is all we can see about Charlie Munger and Alibaba is what he does in the Daily Journal portfolio. Okay, there is no insight into any possible ownership that he has personally on perhaps the Hong Kong exchange. Nothing would be reported about that. There's no insight into the significant portion of his net worth that is invested with Li Lu, who can easily invest in the Hong Kong exchange without any reporting to the SEC, of course. So we don't know what percentage is invested in Alibaba for Charlie Munger from a personal standpoint. All I can do personally is view it through the lens of his dedication in the Daily Journal. So while this is exciting news and probably is a bit of a comfort for Alibaba bulls who are continuing to hold or maybe even purchase more shares, just keep that in mind that, Munger might have a bigger horse in this race, or he might only have 4% of his ownership stake in Daily Journal, which makes his ownership of Alibaba potentially even smaller than that. But on the other hand, it is clear that he believes this is the best place for the money for the Daily Journal shareholders in that portfolio. So there's, of course, the person I learned this from, the idea of opportunity cost in investments, is, of course, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. There is significant opportunity cost to putting dollars continually into a single company. To me, this is an obvious example of swinging at a fat pitch as it comes across the plate. Seeing additions of completely doubling shares, I can't really see any other explanation other than the fact that Munger must think that this is a no-brainer. So if we're looking to Charlie to get investment ideas, then it's our job to at least try to reverse engineer what Munger is seeing in Alibaba that he's continuing to double down. But what I see is a company that the dominant e-commerce company in China, or at least one of them, trading for, some might say, less than the overall value, intrinsic value of the e-commerce business, which gives us the other bets, which would include its e-commerce bets in maybe Southeast Asia, and of course, most notably, the cloud business. I don't like to say for free, and the stake in Ant Financial as well. I see all of these wonderful businesses being packed up into a package that's just selling way too cheap. But again, we have to counterbalance this optimism with all of the rightfully worrying risks, such as maybe the United States forces Alibaba to delist from their exchange. Now, that doesn't preclude you from investing into the Alibaba shares through the Hong Kong exchange or probably the over-the-counter shares. But there's also the risk that the government continues to regulate this business in such a way that maybe the future outlook isn't so bright, and maybe the cloud business really isn't worth anything. That's for us to decide as investors. There's absolutely regulatory uncertainty with Alibaba. And I'm going to quote Monish Pabrai here and say that's why we don't only have one bet. As we've seen, Pabrai purchase Tencent, and who knows if he's going to hold on to those few remaining Alibaba shares that he has. But even Munger isn't dedicating 100% of the Daily Journal portfolio to Alibaba. He is consistently keeping it at this 20% mark. Now, obviously with the intention that it's going to continue to grow. So if the value of the shares doubles from here, for instance, that's going to swell the Alibaba position for Daily Journal to maybe over 30% of the portfolio or so. But it's possible that there's a lot longer runway than that if things go well for Alibaba. So all I'm trying to say is there are a ton of lessons we can take from Munger here. We're seeing somebody who has extremely high conviction with a position. It is one of 6 positions, and he is keen and, shall I say, aggressively keeping it at about at least 20% of the portfolio, which by any measure is a significant amount of size in a portfolio. So Munger clearly has evaluated these risks and still kind of raised the middle finger to it and said, you know what, this is worth it for the shareholders of Daily Journal. One more thing I want to touch on is the significance for Daily Journal shareholders. Now, a significant portion of their market cap is actually those equitable securities here with Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Alibaba, US Bank, POSCO, and BYD. So if we take Daily Journal's market cap of about $487 million and take the portfolio value of the Alibaba shares, which is currently sitting at about $70 million, then we get about 15% of Daily Journal's total market cap value is just attributed to their shares in Alibaba alone. So if you're potentially looking for a way to invest in a company that has exposure to Alibaba, but you don't want to go outright buy the shares, then Daily Journal could be an attractive opportunity. There's also SoftBank, which owns a huge percentage of Alibaba shares as well. So there are ways to access this bet without actually putting those shares in your portfolio directly. With Daily Journal, for instance, you get the upside of, well, I'll have another video on Daily Journal, but there's another budding business within there that hasn't really been accounted for by the market. But on the other hand, if you're a Daily Journal investor and you are growing increasingly uncomfortable with the amount of exposure that the equity portfolio has to Alibaba, that's definitely something to consider. Do you trust Charlie Munger's judgment as an investor in the Daily Journal, or is that making you uneasy? I don't know. I'm not a shareholder of Daily Journal, but that's definitely something I would be considering. Anyway, this can be read as a wonderful sign for investors who are ardent fans of Charlie Munger and are happy to clone his moves into Alibaba. And on the other hand, it is a rallying cry for all those Baba haters and Munger haters who are calling him nuts and calling him old. I lean more on the side of trusting Charlie Munger, but that's just me personally. Let me know what you think of this situation down in the comments below. It's really intriguing. It's sort of behavior I've never seen from Munger in real life before. Having the highest conviction of anything that I've seen him, besides Berkshire Hathaway probably. Thanks for watching this all the way to the end. I really appreciate your time with this one. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy this video over here where I discuss why Mohnish Pabrai loves Tencent so much. Or you might enjoy this video over here where I discuss why Mohnish Pabrai actually sold his shares in Alibaba. Oh yeah, and if you enjoyed this, please like the video and subscribe for more. And I will see you in the next video.